Hello again. I wanted to welcome everyone back to my channel. If this is the first time you're logging on, I want to tell you who I am. My name is Darya Lisserman. I live in Chicago for a very long time. I'm an Illinois resident, but I've been in the urban part of Chicago for probably over 20 years. You hear some nice city noise, so I apologize for that. I would like to talk to you today about Chicago public schools, and also schooling in general. I am a mom of two boys. My boys are being raised in urban part of Chicago, and I know a lot of people have this notion that you cannot raise your kids in Chicago. You have to move to the suburbs. I would like to argue that that is not the case. I'm the one that's doing it, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what that's like. I'm also a Chicago realtor. I speak to many people about this issue, so I will just go ahead and create a channel or a segment, this segment, just like I would be talking to any one of my clients about this issue. So Chicago Public School, we call that CPS for short, has always been scrutinized and kind of thought of as if they're not great schools. Actually, that's completely not true. It's completely false. Chicago Public Schools have very good schools and high ratings. Not all the schools are high rated. You have to definitely check the ratings on different websites that you're using, and also do your own research, because sometimes the ratings are not exactly what you're looking for. And they might not be rating the way you want it to be rating. Maybe you want it to be more focused on the sport program, or maybe you want to be more focused on the reading or math, or whatever it is. Do your own research. And the rating, I have learned that the rating systems for different websites are not exactly always what I'm looking for in a school. So with that said, I want to talk to you a little bit about it. My son, who is now 6 years old, did go to a pre-K program through Chicago Public School, and it was absolutely amazing. It was in one of the higher rated schools. I personally live in Lincoln Park, and we really loved it. I get to learn a little bit. Because I'm a mom, I was able to learn a lot about schoolings, and I also noticed that a lot of realtors that work in Chicago that do not have kids, they know a lot, but once you actually go through this process, you really understand it better, and you can definitely advise people better on this. And that's why I have these conversations, because I did actually physically go through this myself, and I'd like to spread the knowledge and explain how this whole process works here in Chicago. Chicago Public Schools are a whole different system that most people are used to. When I explain it to the people that live in the suburbs, they're completely surprised on how the system works. So that's why I'm gonna just go straight at it. So Chicago is Chicago schooling. There's a lot of Chicago schools, lots of them. Chicago public school system is all one district. It's 299, and it governs over the whole Chicago. There is a different system that Chicago Public Schools has for the schools. They rate 1, 2. They use like a numeric system that's like 1, 2, 3, but that's different than the way these websites like the greatschools.com and Zillow and Redfin and whatever you're using to search for properties. It's different. The way Chicago Public Schools rates its schools is different than these websites are rating these schools. So it's important to understand that, because for a while it got me very confused on how Chicago was rating their schools and how these websites were rating their schools. That was the first confusing factor. The other thing is that what was very interesting, even though it's one district, each school has different options. So for instance, as a parent, if it's important for you to have a second language in your school, or if it's important for you to have a nice sports program, or if it's every single school has a different focus. So it's important that you understand that just because a website says that this school is awesome, that doesn't mean that you're gonna like it. And because of that, it is really, really wonderful that you have the opportunity to actually tour these schools. Most of these schools in Chicago have tours monthly. Some are virtual, some are not virtual, some are in-person tours, and they're called kind of like open houses, and you come in and you meet usually with either the principal or the person that's heading admissions, and they basically explain the school, what they aim to achieve in the school, what they have. They show you a classroom, and that's really important because, for instance, if you're a parent that wants security cameras in your school because you're worried about safety, or if you're a parent that actually is worried about health safety, that's important. If you're walking through the school and you see a bunch of cracks or chipping paint and you're worried about possibly lead, or if you are worried that the school doesn't have a good gymnasium, or if you're worried if your kid is going to be like in some classroom in the basement or something. I mean, it's whatever you like, or it's learning is a very important thing for kids, and you might want to consider having this learning happen in an environment where your kid is going to want to learn. If you have a special needs child, you also want to tour and find out what kind of programming they have for that, and how much extra staff they have. So, for instance, do they have enough money for floaters? Do they have enough money for additional aid in the classroom? How many kids per classroom is is usually, like, is it over? Are the classes really, really large? And can the teacher... Oh, I just want to make sure. Yeah, Kip, sorry. Okay, can the teacher continue, can the teacher, teach this many students? A lot of the classrooms are around like 25 to 30 something kids, and how much extra help does this teacher have? So you want to make sure that, if the school has money for additional projects, for additional help, if they need it. You want to make sure that the school has a strong parent group. That's really important, because if parents are involved in the school, that means that the school will, even though it's getting funding, that means that the school will also get additional funding from all of these parents that are fundraising. You think, wow, I thought Chicago Public Schools were free. Yes, they are free, but parents do fundraise, and if you want your kid to be in a school that has amenities, like, for instance, new bathrooms, new lockers, new computer room, whatever it is. For instance, Chicago Public Schools, they don't have... I don't think they have a music program anymore that's funded by the Chicago Public Schools. So parents in certain schools have gotten together and they funded a music program. Sorry about that. It got too bright outside, so I went inside. Most important is for you to understand that different schools have different programs and different things that you think will be important, and you should definitely go and visit them and see where you want to be, where you want your child to be. You get to meet some of the teachers, you get to see the classrooms, you get to see the school, the full school. You get to see, also understand kind of what their aspirations are, what are they really concentrating on. Some schools concentrate really heavily on second language. Some schools really concentrate very heavily on math. Some schools concentrate really heavily on English. Anyway, whatever your philosophy is, on learning and what you think is best for your child, don't rely on the ratings. Rely on what you feel and is in your gut. And that goes into the second thing. So let's say the second notion that I want to explain. So Chicago Public Schools is a completely different animal than if you live in a suburb. In a suburb of Chicago, if you live there, you go to the neighborhood school that is within the school boundaries. In the city of Chicago, that is not true. In the city of Chicago, what happens? This is specifically for elementary. I'm talking about 1st through 8th grade. Pre-K and high school, I will explain later. But let's talk about 1st grade through 8th grade. So each neighborhood has their own school, just like any other suburbs. It has boundaries for that school, and your child can automatically go to that school. But let's say you are in a school district, you live in a school district that you don't like. You don't want your child to go to that particular school, and you want your child to go to another school in Chicago. You have the option to do one of the followings. Every year, City of Chicago gives you an option to go on a lottery system for up to 20 schools in City of Chicago that are not in your neighborhood. That's amazing, right? You go and you apply for 20 different schools, and you could see if your child possibly can get in them. Let's say that year your child did not get into. You can definitely try another year. And once you get into that school on the lottery, your child is automatically in that school district, in that school through 8th grade. So let's say he got in 1st grade, and you ask, does he have to go on the lottery system again for 2nd grade? No, he does not. He automatically gets in. And most of the schools, if you have a 2nd child or 3rd child or 4th child, they give you preference of that 2nd child to get in. Like, do you still have to, if you have a 2nd child, do you still have to play the lottery? Yes. But what I understand, and I might be wrong, that there is some kind of a preference if your first kid is already in there, which is a huge benefit. So now let's say you love the school and it's great, and you want your child to go there. And your child goes there, and you all of a sudden think, wow, that was really a bad decision. I thought I would like it, but then I don't. Well, so the thing is it's different. In the suburbs, you're kind of stuck, right? You're in those boundaries. You can't go anywhere else. You probably will have to go to a private school. Here in Chicago, that's not the case. If you made a mistake and you think, wow, this is really not the school for me, next year you can play the lottery and get him or her into another school. I apologize. I always say him because I have 2 boys. So the other way to get your child into another school, like let's say you're not happy with the school in your neighborhood, is, let me see if I can, I was able to put my phone down. Okay, the other way that you can get your kid into a different school is to test your kid. Chicago Public Schools gives you the option to test your kid yearly, starting at as early as kindergarten. So you can see if your child qualifies for some of the schools that Chicago has to offer for gifted kids. So you might not know. You think your kid is normal, but maybe he's gifted. Who knows? But anyway, Chicago Public Schools has a bunch of schools for kids that are an accelerated level, and they're completely free. They give the option to test your child, where you bring him in to a special testing center. A person, you have an appointment. A person, you wait in the lobby. The person takes your child and privately tests your child for probably, I would say, about an hour or so, and then probably within a month or 2, you get the results and you find out if that child was able to be tested, how the test went, and then if he qualifies for a gifted program in these gifted schools. So some of them are different. Some of them, I think, like if you're testing a kindergarten kid and he tests on the first grade level, then that means that he's accelerated and he probably belongs in this accelerated school. So let's say you say that school is pretty far from me. So in general, Chicago public schools that are pretty close to you, they don't offer busing. But if you are pretty far away from that school, I think the schools do give you busing, and that is available. So it depends on how far away from the school you are, and you would have a bus. Special needs kids definitely qualify for a bus, so there is a bus. But in general, most kids do not take the bus to school. Most parents drop off unless you live really, really far away. So that's what I have to, okay. So if you are, one of the things that I learned that was really good that I'm glad I did is, let's say you don't know if you don't know, you just, it's so overwhelming, you don't know what school, and you're like, oh, where should my kid go, or where should I move to? I don't want to deal with this with this lottery system. I just want to move to a neighborhood that has a great school and it's all cut off for me, and I just don't want. The best advice that I will tell you as a parent and as a realtor, spy. What does that mean? So drive by the school, go to the open house, speak to the parents, drive during like a lunchtime, and maybe like take a look around, and see, how's the neighborhood when you're not there. Go on the website of the school, or go on the website of Go CPS, and put your name on it and subscribe to the newsletter. Find out what activities they're doing. Do that early on, and that way you'll kind of following what's going on. And if you like what's happening, then it's probably the right place for you. Wow, you're like, oh, this school is really wow, I can't believe they're doing this. So you'll be pleasantly surprised. Go on the parent groups. The parent groups, a lot of them have their own websites. They have their own Facebook pages. Spy. That's all I have to say about that, if you are really not sure. For pre-K, Chicago is talking about possibly making it free for everyone. I personally did pay for my child to go to pre-K program. It was approximately $15,000 a year for 2 years, but I think starting next year, a lot of them are going to be going free. I think, and again, I might be wrong, so it's really early on to see what will happen. I will do another segment to kind of, once I have all that information, I will do another segment on pre-K, but pre-K starts at 3 years old. Some schools are half days, which is like 9 to 12, or 1 to 3, like 2 hours, and that's free. And some schools are full day. So it depends on what you want. I think Chicago has many different options for that, and I don't believe you have to be in the district in order to qualify for that. I don't even think it's a lottery system. I think if you're in the neighborhood, you automatically get in. And I think, I apologize. If you're in the neighborhood, you automatically get in. But if you are not in the neighborhood and you want your child to go into that school, you can go on their wait list. And you have to definitely call. Chicago has a list of all of their schools that offer pre-K. Not every school offers pre-K. They have a list of all the pre-Ks available, and you should definitely look into, see which one's closest to you, and see if the hours work for you. Half days for me didn't work. I paid for my education because I paid for the pre-K because I needed it to be full-time. Both me and my husband work, and we wanted to pay for school because we wanted it to be a full day, and full day was starting at, I believe, like 7:30 or 8. I can't remember. It was a little while ago, till about 5:36. And the other thing is, Chicago is different. That most people, like, let's say you don't want to make lunch every day, or you can't afford to make lunch every day, Chicago feeds all of their students for free. And they provide breakfast and lunch, and I believe also snack. It's in the school that we were at, it was really half and half. Some of the parents were paying lunches, other parents were not, and that the kids really liked the food there. A lot of people really like the food. So it's really, people don't believe me, but yeah, Chicago provides free food for all of their kids. It's not organic, so if you're asking me, it's not organic. It's just regular food. High school is completely different in Chicago. High school is like college in Chicago. Basically, you have to test in. You have to test in. Sorry about that. You have to test into a high school that you want. And so that's important because it's very, very competitive. Parents really get worried about that time because they want their child to get into a good high school. And they can pretty much apply to any high school in Chicago. So that's how our public system works. Now, let's say you're one of those parents that really just doesn't want public school. They want private, which is fair. You know, a lot of parents say, you know what, I really want smaller classrooms, more teacher attention. I want private education. You may say, like, my parents put me through private school. Not my parents, but your parents put you through private school, and you want private education. We have a lot of private education available here in Chicago. The range for private education is really, really, really big, meaning financial range. I've seen Catholic schools run from like $6,000 per child to regular schools or British schools or French schools. There's different Latin schools run all the way to like 30 to 35,000. So it's a very, very different price point of what you can, what you want. Some of the private schools also offer busing, which is really nice. You don't have to drive your kid to school. Yay. And the private schools here are absolutely wonderful. They're amazing. We have people coming even from the suburbs to our private schools. They're fantastic. So it really depends on what you want, and it also depends on what you want for aftercare. So aftercare, our school ends around like 3:30, and it starts around like 8:30. So it depends on if you need early care or aftercare. Every school, including private, has those options for you for additional fees. And you definitely, if this is something that's really important for you, where your schedule is really, you start really early, like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, or you work really late, not really late, but regular day of up to 6, and you need aftercare. There's no one that can pick up your kid at 3:30. There's definitely aftercare and different activities. Each school has partnered up with a different organization. Sometimes the private schools do their own, but and they definitely have that option for you. So you should definitely find out what's available depending on your schedule. So please don't worry. There's definitely options. You do not have to have a grandparent or anyone. There's definitely options, and a lot of parents are doing them. Some of them are cheaper than others, so it just depends on what you want. What's nice about some of the options that they give you is that, like, let's say, your kid really wants to do basketball, volleyball, or art or something. A lot of the after school options, they give you that option. So automatically, right after school, he just starts one of those extracurricular activities, he or she, sorry. And that's absolutely lovely. So in regards to safety, it's important that we talk about that. Is it safe? Absolutely. It is. Some of the private schools will have security on site. Some of the public schools will have a security system, and they will also have like a custodian that is like a security guard. So definitely, if you're worried about safety, definitely ask and find out what kind of instances they've had and stuff like this. Do I feel as a parent safe to put my kid in a public school? Absolutely. I am very, very comfortable with putting my kid in a good school, as long as I know that there is stuff in place that protects my kid. That's it. As long as I know that they're being diligent and watching your children. I hope this segment helped. It was really much longer than I thought it would be, but it's just such a strong and long topic. I will definitely talk about the suburban schools if you're interested in in learning more about that. If you're moving to the suburbs of Chicago, I'll definitely talk about that on a different segment, but I wanted to focus today on Chicago public schools and the private schools, just because it's completely different. One last thing I want to add is, let's say your child is really, really small. There's two ways to go about this. Number one, very common way, you stay home. One of you stay home with the child, or you stay home with the child. Number two, the other way is to get a nanny, or the second way is to go to one of our wonderful child care centers. They're fantastic. I hope you find one that you like. And there's all different prices. There's also in-home daycares. There's a bunch of different options. It depends on what you want. They range between, for full-time, you can definitely do part-time. It depends on your schedule, but they range between probably around like $900 to about $2,500 a month. Definitely I would recommend you going on some of the mommy groups on Facebook and finding out which one people like, or talk to your friends. That's really important. Lastly, I want to talk about, I thought I was going to end this video, but last thing I want to talk about is financial aid. Schooling can get expensive for some people, and it's very important that you don't immediately think that you don't qualify for financial aid. You would be pleasantly surprised. So if you are looking at these prices for private school, not Chicago public schools, although Chicago public schools also, all of the schools across the board, if you want your kid to be in certain activities and you just feel like, oh, that's just a lot of money, every single school has, and I didn't know this, but after talking to parents, just so you know, every single school has some kind of, most schools have, not every, most schools have some kind of help for parents that can't afford everything that they want to put their kid in. So definitely ask. If you don't automatically say, oh, that's just too expensive, I can't, definitely look into their financial aid option. Or like if you want to send your kid on a class trip that's too expensive, whatever it is, definitely find out, ask, do not be embarrassed. Just so you know, a lot of parents are asking, and do not be embarrassed to ask about it, because this is a very common thing and it's really not a big deal. So, you can even ask, like, let's say, forget about the schools, but there's an extracurricular activity you want to put, like maybe your child in science lab or something like this as an extracurricular activity. A lot of these extra programming for kids, they do offer some kind of aid for parents. So I want to put that out to you. I hope you found this segment helpful, and please log into my channel for other wonderful topics about Chicago and the neighboring suburbs. Have a nice day.